Hi, good morning. I'm Isobel, and the nutrition program at Teachers College has been around for 105 years. And about 40 years ago, Dr. Joan Gusso was already very interested in food system issues and talked about eating local, and everybody thought she was a little crazy. And of course, it's gone mainstream. And we've been very interested in food education and policy. And over the years, we've been working in the schools linking food and policy. And we've just completed a project where we look at wellness and curriculum in elementary schools. Recently, we were fortunate enough to get some funding from Lori M. Tisch to set up the Lori M. Tisch Center for Food Education and Policy. We really wanted the word environment in there as well, but everybody tells us it has to be only 3 words. So environment is not there, but in fact, it's very much a very important part of our mission. We've also come to the realization that for us, policy makes it possible for people to eat better, but that for people to increases the resources and opportunities, but on the other hand, we need to encourage people to actually use those resources. So education is also very important, along with other kinds of modalities. So our uniqueness is linking the education and the policy. And I'm going to, since we only have so little time, I'm going to turn it over to Pam Koch to tell you about one of the projects that we've just finished. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm so happy to be here to share this with you. And just to tell you, this is based on the doctoral dissertation of Kathleen Porter, who just finished in May, and she would be here to tell you about it and hear about it as well, but she's doing a postdoc at Virginia Tech. And so what we did is we wanted to figure out how we could expand nutrition education in programs in New York City elementary schools. And we did this through really analyzing what was going on in practice so that how practice was going could inform policy for the future. So I know you all know why nutrition education is important in schools. Obviously, it can improve health. And then from a school perspective, and when you talk to schools, they told us this, is they see nutrition and wellness and health education fitting into a whole child approach to education, which they really want to have in their schools. Also, as we know, the main mission of schools is academics, and they believe that if their children are healthy, that they will have more academic success. Now, what we were really interested in is programs that are pushing into New York City schools, so programs that are coming into the schools and doing education there. And we wanted to understand those programs better. So what those programs do is they bring nutrition expertise right into the schools, because obviously the schools don't really have people trained in nutrition or nutrition education in their schools. It also can expand the kinds of activities that are talked about instead of just talking about, you know, my plate and basic things about nutrition, that you could do cooking, gardening, and other activities. And it also is a way to increase the amount of time spent on nutrition education. And we all know that the more time that people learn about this, the more that they can become motivated and learn how to eat healthfully. And on average, it's about a median of 10 hours a year that is spent on nutrition education, and these programs can increase that. So we call these programs nutrition education programs from outside sources, or NEPOs, because we needed to give them a name. So you're going to see NEPOs throughout the rest of this research. What we studied were 2 things. First of all, we wanted to know what were the NEPOs that were available in New York City public schools, and then, and this is the part that can inform policy, is how are they distributed among the schools, and are the schools that really need them the schools that are getting them? So to understand what the NEPOs were, we created, and from working in New York City and public schools for a long time, a list of all of the NEPOs that we could come up with. And then we actually sent this out to all of them and asked them to tell us about other programs that they knew about so that we could hopefully get a pretty comprehensive list of these NEPOs. And we basically got 34 on the list. Some of the programs, once we talked to them, we realized that they didn't quite fit, and a few others chose not to participate. We also wanted to get data on the schools, and basically to get data on the schools, we used publicly available data, mostly data from the Department of Education, DOE, Accountability and Overview Reports that tells you basic statistics about the schools. And also, the NEPOs all gave us a list of all of the schools that they worked in the 3 boroughs that we were focused on, which were Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. And so we had 20 NEPOs altogether that ended up being involved in this, and I can tell you they are the ones that are the bigger ones that are in a lot of schools. And 14 of these have started since 2006. So I think that's interesting. It shows that this is actually a growing field. Although from our data, what we can't tell is whether it's just that a lot of these start and then fail, or it's just that a lot have started. But from being in the field, we think it's more that there's a lot starting up. 6 of these 20 are only one session for the students, which is not a lot of education. 2 were more than 25 sessions, and basically the rest, the other 12, were somewhere between 2 and 24, about evenly distributed all along the way. And most of them said that they touch upon the major academic subjects in schools, which is great because that connects what they are doing to what schools want to do. 5 of these programs are led just by the teacher. The programs support the teachers. 7 of them are led by the program staff, with the teacher, kind of just being on the side. And 8 of them combine the teacher and the program staff working together to do the education for the program. Most of the programs provided professional development for teachers, either before the program and during the program, and many of them provided curriculum guides to the teachers about how to teach. So here are the results. This is how the distribution was. Out of those 3 boroughs of Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens, 61% of schools had none of these programs. It was only 39% that had them, and you can see on the bottom how it was distributed of 1 program, 2 program, and 3 or more programs. And then we wanted to look at how these programs, are they getting to where they need to be? So we looked at the percentage of students that qualify for free or reduced lunch. And if you just look at the red line of text, the total schools, as we know, out of the 605 schools, many of the schools in New York City have a very high percentage of students that qualify for free or reduced lunch. And you can see out of those schools which ones have NEPOs. And you could see that the schools that actually have fewer kids that qualify for free or reduced lunch, it's actually about half of those schools that have the programs. Some of these programs are fee-for-service programs that the parents bring in, but it was a lower percentage of the schools in the most upper level that actually had these programs. And then we looked at what we called need-based NEPOs, and these were NEPOs that were actually really trying to get into schools that either had a high population of students that qualify for free or reduced lunch, or had health parameters and other things. And so as you can see, they were definitely not in the schools that don't need them. The lowest, there's the 0 and the 0 to 24%. And they were getting in the schools that need them most. Okay, and then we looked at the childhood obesity rates from the Department of Health data and saw basically that they were in actually the schools with the lowest obesity rates and the highest the most, but those middle categories, there's definitely a need for more programs. And then we looked at schools that are in the district public health office neighborhoods, which are in South Bronx, Harlem, and Central Brooklyn, and saw how those were distributed there. I want to just show you some recommendations. We also, what I haven't talked about here, this was obviously a very big study, talked to a lot of the schools that had these programs about how they were making them work. So some recommendations that we have for schools basically are, there's a lot of NEPOs, and schools want to have NEPOs that fit in what they do. So find ones that fit your philosophy. And a lot of the schools talked about how having these programs builds their pride and identity and brings more families into the school. So I think if schools realize that, they will actually want to have more. Also, some schools had one person that was the champion. Schools can build a team of champions, so there's a lot of people supporting this. And a lot of schools made NEPOs what they termed a rite of passage, which was certain grades did certain programs so that students move up and learn about food in all these different ways as they move through the school. For the NEPOs themselves, emphasize how you change behavior. Principals all talked about how they want timely, immediate, tangible results. So they want to know, my children will be eating better if this program comes in. Frame it around the whole child approach. Cultivate motivation throughout. Even if the program has been there for a while, keep reminding them about how important this is. And collaborate with other NEPOs. Schools actually liked it when one program brought another program into the school. Show the school how you fit into their routines because they're very busy and they need to know that you're going to fit in with them. And make the expectations for you that you're going to provide to them and you expect from them very clear. Some recommendations for funders and policymakers. First and foremost, we need more of these. Many schools are not getting them. Second is fund some new ones because there are a lot of programs starting up, but also expand the ones that are in a lot of schools. And then help NEPOs get into the schools that need them most because they are somewhat, but really aren't saturating those schools as much as they really need to be. So we will be having a report coming out on this soon, and I hope I just piqued your interest enough that you'll look at the report when it comes out. Thank you.